Hey people of the VC, it's Andy Cloudy Milder. Hope you are all well out there in isolation land. I know for one, after 5 days of a dry isolation period, I'm happy to be back on the self-medication. Hope you are all doing well in this crazy world that we currently find ourselves in. This video is for the Rock Scout. He put out a bit of a kind of uplifting, feel-good thread to try and bring us all together and maybe not feel as alone as you could be in isolation. And he came up with, it's like a vinyl tag, but it's 15 questions. Some of these I've heard of before, some of these are new, but altogether I'm happy to do these and support you, Scott, and everyone else that's doing these as well. So, your 15 questions. Your first one was, name an album crying out for a reissue. Now, I mostly show vinyl, obviously, but I'm showing a vinyl now. So this is a Ramones Halfway to Sanity. But I really want an official reissue of Halfway to Sanity on CD. It is all I am missing from all the studio albums. Well, I don't have all the original studio albums, but I have them all on vinyl. And I have everything on CD as well, but I don't have an official Halfway to Sanity release on a CD. I have it's a bootleg, but from what I can gather, this album, I don't know if it's out of print or something, but I read somewhere that it's got to the stage where I think anyone can make a copy of it and release it. It doesn't seem right though, does it? Surely I read that wrong, but you can look on eBay and you will see copies of Halfway to Sanity. So Halfway to Sanity it's one of their mid-80s albums. It's got Richie Ramone on drums. It's one of their albums that probably they're not best known for. Everybody goes for 70s Ramones when they talk about the Ramones, and rightly so. 70s Ramones is fantastic, but I really love the 80s and 90s Ramones as well. I think there's some absolutely killer songs out there. I mean, this one has I Wanna Live, Bop Till You Drop, Weasel Face, I Know Better Now, Go Little Camaro Go, Worm Man, great song, Death of Me. It's a great album, and it needs an official CD release. Just about every other Ramones album's had a CD release apart from that one, and I want it now. Okay, question 2, one of the questions. A discography in your collection that is near completion. Well, if you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, links below, you will see that I've been on a real Iron Saviour kick. And I have all of their studio albums bar one, which is the latest album. And I have that on order at the moment. So whereas very soon I will have all of the albums, there are 2 albums of theirs, and so Megatropolis, I think it was released, so this is an original pressing, but they weren't happy with it, although I think it sounds fantastic. It sounds more like heavy metal than the power metal of that Iron Saviour are best known for. Iron Saviour being a German power metal band, but they re-recorded this and released it as Megatropolis 2.0. I don't have Megatropolis 2.0. I'd love to get hold of a copy, but because I have this, I'm not prepared to pay the prices that are currently out there at the moment. So one day I will pick up that. And they've also done another album. I can't remember the name of it now. It's called something like Reburned, something like that. But it's a lot of the earlier tracks that they released. I think a lot of the first 3.5 albums had Kai Hansen on them. I think they've re-recorded a lot of those with the current members of the band. So Iron Saviour, I have most of them, but I want them all. They're one of those bands I kind of really want to get everything that they've done, because superb band. Question 3. Great cover, bad album. And then question 4 is bad cover, great album. Now, these ones came up, I think they came up in one of the official vinyl tags a few years ago. And I struggled with it then, and I struggled with it now. I have actually, it's not that I don't have any bad albums. I have a few bad albums that actually have bad covers. And many great albums that have great covers, but it's hard to get that balance to sort this question out. So first off, I am going with a great cover, bad album, and this is Grand Prix Samurai. I mean, that album, to me, when I saw this album, I was thinking it's got to be heavy metal. And it's got to be something like, Tokyo Blade had a similar sort of samurai feel to it, and they were new wave of British heavy metal. And when I looked at the back, 'cause this is a bit of a blind buy, when I looked at the back, it's got Robin McCauley on vocals. So I was thinking MSG, Macaulay Schenker Group. This has got to be good, but no, it's a little bit too melodic for my tastes. But I do love the cover, but I'm not in love with the album. And then there was the bad cover, great album. And this one I kind of struggled with a bit more. So I've plumped for Vow Wow and Helter Skelter. I like this album. I think it's really good. What I don't really like is they're another band that has covered the Beatles' Helter Skelter, and not only have they covered it, they've named the album after it, and then they've put a damn Helter Skelter on the front cover. Not the biggest fan of bands that do covers, but why name your album after it? Why not sell your own songs? So let's look at this. Apart from Helter Skelter, their songs are I Feel the Power, Talking About You, Spellbound, Rock Me Now, Turn on the Light, Never Let You Go, Night by Night, You're the One for Me. Okay, not many of these necessarily spring to mind as a great album title. Maybe I Feel the Power, or Night by Night, or something like that. They could have come up with a better title and cover than nicking a song that was 20 years old at the time, 20 plus years old at the time. So that's the best I could come up with for bad cover, but a good album, because I like Vow Wow. Used to be Vow Wow when they relocated to the US. Although this is 1989, so it is a little bit more kind of melodic, hard rock sounding than their early stuff, but it's still a good album, worth checking out. Question 4 from the Scouty Scout. Question 5, sorry, from the Scout. Scout is a short album. All my albums are 12 inches long, so I couldn't find a short one, but the jokes don't get any better, folks. Suicidal Tendencies, self-titled album. This clocks in around 28 minutes long. Brilliant album. Question 6. A song that introduced you to a genre you love. So, when I started out in the VC, and I'm going to do a little bit of rambling as I go through some of these if I can. Metal Mickey was spot on with his response to this, is that people have got plenty of time to watch these videos, so why rush them? I'm hopefully not going to make it too long, but who cares if I do? Don't watch it all in one go if you don't want to. Just, if you want to come back and watch it, do it at your own pace. But I'm going to do this at my own pace. So when I started the VC, I was kind of looking for... I was only going to collect 80s metal secondhand records. But then I started listening to some newer stuff, and then in a bit of a Bandcamp binge one night, I came across a band called Steak, and I wasn't familiar with sort of stoner doom at the time, but the song "The Butcher" that caught my attention, and that got me exploring the whole genre of desert stoner rock and a little bit more doom. You kind of associate desert rock a little bit more with the US, obviously with the deserts, but Steak, they are from London, I believe. This is their EP, Disastronaut. I love the name of that. And also the song on here, Gore Whore. How could you not be sucked in by Gore Whore to figure out what, to at least hear that song and know what it's all about. So Steak clicked with me instantly. And I picked up this and Corned Beef Colossus, their other EP that they had at the time. They've got another 2 albums out since then. And it branched out, and I've got a whole cube section that's just all the stoner doom stuff that I've picked up since then. So the song "The Butcher" by Steak is the song and the band that got me hooked on stoner. And whereas it's something I don't necessarily listen to regularly, maybe as regularly as I like, when I do, I binge on it, and I love it. Next up, an album people wouldn't expect you to like. I have actually quite a bit of, I have quite a hefty CD collection that isn't rock and metal, and it's more around the indie rock, Britpop, alternative rock scene that was going around in the 90s and 2000s back in the UK, and I was heavily into that scene at the time. I wasn't really listening to a lot of hard rock and metal, but I'm going to go earlier than that. And in fact, I'm going to I catalogued all those CDs recently. There's about 400 or so, and it's crying out for a video, I think, at some point, so, or a series of videos. So I may well do some of those. People used to see metal on my channel. You probably won't like them or whatever, but you know what? I'm probably going to do it anyway. But I'm going to... How about a bit of madness? One Step Beyond. A little bit of two-tone ska. I love this album. This takes me right back to my pre-teen years when this came out. One Step Beyond, My Girl, Night Boat to Cairo. Fantastic. Land of Hope and Glory, The Prince, Bed and Breakfast Man, Chipmunks Go. I love Madness. Everything about Madness. Madness were the coolest band around when I was a kid, and I still, this gives me goosebumps when I hear it. This and absolutely the album had baggy trousers on as well. Absolute killer stuff. I only picked that up recently, sort of 2 or 3 years ago, because I had to have it on vinyl. My sisters used to have it on vinyl. I never had it up until that point. Number 8, most anticipated album of 2020. I've not been keeping up this year. Usually 2019, 2018, 2017, I was all over the new releases. I actually had to look up what was coming this year. I know the Testament one is coming out. I've heard really good things about it. I was kind of put off by Brotherhood of the Snake. Not a bad album, but a little bit too growly for me. I know Havoc have got a new album coming out this year called 5. That maybe as well. And maybe I've heard rumours from Metal Mickey that Iron Maiden might have a new album out as well. Obviously, if that comes, then I will pick that up as well. Most definitely, but there's nothing I'm particularly in a hurry to pick up this year, I'm afraid. A band or artist I was late to the party with. I've gone for Rainbow. Obviously, iconic band with a big foothold in the 70s. 70s music has never been something that has really gripped me. Same with Black Sabbath. It was never, to me, that was, that was stuff that came out before I was really into music, when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old. I mean, Black Sabbath came out before I was born. So when I was a teenager, I wanted music that was new and relevant to then. I didn't want to look back at stuff that was 10, 15 years old by that point. And this album, or songs from this album, which is what Rainbow, Down to Earth, put me off Rainbow, because this was radio friendly Rainbow. This stuff, All Night Long, and Since You've Been Gone, were the songs that were, they were on commercial radio, and I thought that was what Rainbow were all about, and it put me off. Obviously, I like this album now. I really like it because it's got Graham Bonnet on vocals, and I really, really like his vocals, and I've seen him live since, and I've really come to really appreciate and like this album. But initially, that's what put me off Rainbow. I found a Rainbow collection in my local record store, and really it was like 5 or 6 albums, including that one that I've just shown, and I picked it up because they were all such a great price. But by then I discovered Dio. Again, Dio was one of those bands in the 80s I discounted, because Dio was this guy was in Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath was an old band, and I didn't want anything to do with them. I obviously saw Dio at the Monsters of Rock in '87, which was a special guest, and I have vague memories of it, but I didn't appreciate that I was seeing Dio. The fool. But I subsequently heard songs like Long Live Rock and Roll. When I got into Dio himself, I started looking back, and I kind of loved the Black Sabbath Dio years, and then after getting into that, I started listening to some of the Rainbow stuff, and realised I knew more than I did, stuff that I kind of associated with Rainbow. He used to do medleys with things like Long Live Rock and Roll on there as well, and as such now, the whole Rainbow catalogue, absolutely love. Next question. An album you play on a regular basis. I can pull this one. I'm going to pull this one now. So this is one I think is much maligned. Or not maligned, that's the wrong thing to say really, but it's in the wrong section. I won't find it. I won't find this now. I won't find it now. I moved it for some crazy reason, and it's annoying me. I put all my Music for Nations albums together in one bin, and now I can't find anything. Master of Puppets from Metallica. I play that on a regular basis. It's an album that I've heard now called overrated, overplayed, but I can't get enough of it. I play on a regular basis at least once, twice, 3 times a year, maybe even more than that. It blew me away when I heard it, and I thoroughly enjoy it now. And anyone who says it's overrated is probably they're mistaking it with being overplayed, because it's a monster of an album. It's an absolute classic masterpiece, and people should play it more. In fact, if you got it, get it out, play it now. A record you'd recommend that was £10 or less, or CD £5 or less. This is kind of a bit difficult, because most of the new stuff is not within those price ranges. So what I can recommend is something that I'm going to recommend Saxon, Strong Arm of the Law, one of my favourite Saxon albums. I picked this up for a £5 a few years ago. Looking on Discogs, the average price is around £8. You're only going to get an OG pressing like this in decent condition on someone like Discogs or eBay, so you're going to pay what people don't want for it. But I think you should be able to get a decent copy of this for under a tenner, and it's a great introduction to Saxon if you haven't been introduced to them. before. What do we have next? The first and last in your collection. Followed Metal Mickey here and just gone from the first record in the alphabet, which is A to Z, which is of Barclay. And the last one, he showed a Zodiac Mind Warp, but I will go to the next Zodiac Mind Warp and the Love Reaction album, which was Hoodlum Thunder, of course. And where are we up to now? An album that changed your opinion of a band or artist. Slayer, South of Heaven. Didn't click with anything beforehand, and to be honest, I'm not actually that fussed. Even like the likes of Rain in Blood, it was all a little bit too aggressive for me at the time. I have copies of the early albums, but South of Heaven, and then subsequently Seasons of the Abyss made me appreciate Slayer a lot more than I did before. One album I saved in a fire. You probably guessed this one already. Live After Death, Iron Maiden. Although not this copy, I'd saved my original. I just pulled the wrong one. This is the 2014 recent repress, but mostly sentimental reasons and the fact that it's a good album. And the final question, a debut album from 1986. Scott, the Rock Scout, was born in 1986. And I thought a very fitting end to this would be to show and select Crimson Glory's debut album from 1986. I chose this one because Scott himself gave me this as a VCLT. So this is as old as Scott, and that's the answer to the question. If you have a few spare minutes, make a video and make it as long as you can, so we've got plenty to watch. Really enjoy these questions, Scott. I will leave a link to Scott's channel below. Jump on it. Let's have some fun. Cheers.